Welcome to the Owning Your Sexual Self podcast, a place for you to listen and explore all things surrounding sex positivity. I'm your host, Rachel Main, sex therapist and educator, intimacy coach, awesome wife to my husband, Danny, board of directors member and team leader with Pure Romance, and best of all, a work-from-home dog mom to my favorite pups, Bane and Tater. After starting my Pure Romance business, I quickly learned how much sexuality education was lacking within my community and how much shame was placed on things like fantasies, masturbation, and sexual dysfunctions. I'm on a mission to make this world a more sex-positive place, and with this podcast, I hope to reach thousands of people. I'll bring real-life experiences to the surface and normalize them by offering a non-judgmental view. If you can get down with that, then tune in every Monday and let's change this fucking world. All right, yay! I'm so excited you guys have a familiar face to listen to today. Well, familiar voice actually, because there's no actual video on here, but I'm so excited to have one of my besties back, Megan Ulrich. I asked Megan to be on this podcast today. If you saw the Instagram poll and you voted, our topic of voting is sexy, you were 100% right, because she has been such a huge part in my journey and forcefulness, I guess I'll use that word, when it comes to voting. And I'm excited that we're both going to share our personal voting stories today. And this episode is not to push any sort of political views on you whatsoever. We really are here just to talk about the importance of voting. So welcome back, Meg. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited to be here, you guys. This is such an important topic. And Rachel, I'm just so flattered that you feel like I helped to be an influence on your political stance and just passion for voting and having our voices heard.
Yeah, for sure. I think I just remember last month, I'm like, would you categorize me as a liberal? And I'm like, what is a liberal? Tell me all of the things, because I was always the person that was so fuck politics, I'm not getting invested, I don't ever watch the news or anything like that. So I just feel like really within the last 4 years, I've kind of been dipping my toe into politics. And then just given the climate of our world in 2020, I felt like that has really encouraged me to become more involved with it and really figure out myself and my own personal views. I think for so long, it's so many people just go based on what their parents' political views are. And we're hoping to help you not do that and develop your own opinions when it comes to politics.
Yes, I love that, Rachel, too. And I love that you said that you come from that space of not caring almost, because I think a lot of us, especially as white, heterosexual, cisgender people, a lot of us come from that space. I definitely come from a family who was not about politics. I do not remember my parents voting. If they did, it was one of those things where you don't tell people who you voted for and you don't talk about it. And I think we need to talk about it because, like you said, even just the education around it, you being where do I stand? I don't even know what some of these terms mean. And a lot of people don't. And sometimes just that slight lack of education causes a lack of confidence, which is what I think causes people to just press pause on politics, not realizing that it's actually a privilege for some of us to be able to block out politics in the world, because for some of us, politics and laws and rulings that are made don't affect our lives, but they do affect so many Americans, and that's why our voices are so important.
Yeah, for sure. And I think exactly right. I'm even thinking back to my college years and going through School of Social Work even, right? Politics, of course, came up, and you're talking about values and ethics, and that's everything that you stand for as a social worker. I just felt like I was so just confused. I don't know, these people are using all these political words and all these different stances on things, and I have just shut myself out from that for so long, and I just was just sitting there that sort of person, just okay, not trying to engage in the conversation. And then I guess, I was still in college. I think I was going through my master's degree program for the Obama election, and I didn't even vote. I feel so shameful even saying that. I legitimately did not vote for in that election because I truly thought that if Obama won presidency and him being the first Black president, I legit thought that he was going to be assassinated in his first week of being in office, because I thought with just the racism in general in the US, like I thought for sure, I was like, people are going to lose their shit if we have if he gets in office. And so I was like, I'm not going to be a part of that. Like and now looking back, I'm like, you know, who would have thought, in my opinion, he was one of the best presidents that we've ever had. And I wish that I could have taken part. Now, when he was being reelected, I did vote in that election, so I felt grateful for that. But yeah, it's crazy. Just had my parents, well, my father in particularly, grateful that he doesn't listen to this podcast, so I could say whatever I want to say, but I feel like he would just die knowing that I voted for that person and go against everything that he stands for when it comes to voting.
I love this so much, and because I think we all have such unique experiences, and being able to say, like, this is where I came from and, like, this is where I am now is so important, instead of just pretending like, oh, we're all good, you know, being able to say, these are the changes that I made, you know? So for those of you listening that maybe listened to my first episode with Rachel, you remember I'm one of Rachel's youngest friends, and so I don't know if this is a privilege or what, but it was a very unique experience that my first election that I was old enough to vote for, and you guys, was 2016. Hillary versus our current president now. And because I missed the 2012 Obama by just a couple months. And so not only was that my first introduction to politics, but that election, the one we're currently going through now in 2020, are some of the most heated and divided elections I think we've seen in America in a very long time. And so that was my first experience of going from somebody who knew nothing about voting, parents didn't vote. I primarily hung out with the good old hick boys in high school. That was the only influence I had, to being thrown into this quote unquote lesser of two evils election in 2016. And since then, I think that's what has helped me spark just so much of my interest in seeing why, elections are so important and seeing why our voices are so important. And again, going through college like you, Rachel, getting to go through some of the gender and women's studies classes and learning about political history and just history in general of minorities in this country, and just seeing how much each election really impacts people's lives has just been such a unique experience, I think, having that be my first taste of politics.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like a part of me, and now looking back and doing some reflecting just in the past few minutes, I think a bigger piece of for me too was when I started in the sex therapy practice, right? So I'm working more closely with a lot of minorities. And yes, I did when in healthcare too. However, I worked at the University of Michigan healthcare system. And so a lot of people that had insurance that were able to afford to go to a healthcare system like that, you're looking at middle to upper class typically. But now working in that therapy practice, working with a lot of minorities, working closely with the LGBT population, and working even more closely with women than I ever have before in my life, and now transitioning into my sex coaching practice, I'm primarily working with heterosexual women. And so these things are coming up around things like birth control, women's rights, voting, just tons of women issues. And it's that's for me what it comes down to is yes, some of the current decisions might not affect me individually, but it's the people that mean the most to me, the people that I'm working with directly, in some cases my family members, those are the people that I feel like when I'm voting, that's who I'm thinking for. And it often is stated to me I think so many people look at it in terms of what is going to do for the economy. And sure, I'm all great for the economy being good and stuff, but the financial aspect of my life, people's rights are more important to me than how much money I have in my bank account, 100% at the end of the day. And I think that that's something that a lot of people overlook, and especially I think the older population, they're looking at it differently, right? They're thinking in terms of Social Security and insurance and finances, and it's so much more than that.
Yes, I totally agree. And that's why I think it's important to do the research. Like, we're here to empower everybody listening to do the research, form your own opinions. I've had so many of my own clients and followers say to me, like, I think I know who I want to vote for this year, but it doesn't agree with anybody in my family or even my husband. And knowing that that's okay, and knowing what pillars you are voting on. So like Rachel just stated, she's voting on the pillars for equality, for people who are in minority communities, for LGBTQ community, like knowing what pillars stand important to you instead of just ignoring it because, even if something bad happens, it may not affect me. And one of my favorite, I'm just going to pop in a resource for you guys. There are literally quizzes, you guys, that can tell you who is running, who's on the ballot, and whose views align most with yours. So if you literally Google 2020 presidential quiz, it will tell you of everybody. And there is even third-party options, everything. It tells you the percentage in which you align with somebody. So even if you are not planning to vote third-party, figure out which percentage you align with most of our two main candidates this year. And because there's so many things on that quiz that are more than just economics and equality. There's so much, there's even things on there that I didn't even think about. Mm-hmm. Even come up the VP debate, they're talking about fracking, and I'm like, I don't even know what this is. There's so many things that it really picks your brain. Answer the quiz honestly, and it'll help you see which candidates your views align most with.
Yeah, and I think that's especially helpful for the people that don't vote because they don't know who to vote for. And they have that worry, like, well, gosh, like, what if I make the wrong decision? Truthfully, you really can't make a quote unquote wrong decision. It really just is about getting your, like, taking ownership of that you have the right to vote, because there's still so many people out there in different countries that don't have the right to vote, or voting isn't even a thing. And so that really is a privilege for us Americans to be able to have a say in who we decide that we want to be elected. And so you shared before we started recording a really, really like important stat on the number of people that didn't vote in the 2016 election. Just throw that out there.
Okay, so for those of you listening, so there were 65 million votes for the Clinton administration in 2016, 62 million votes for the Trump administration, 7 million votes for third party, and just under 100 million votes, or non-voters, 100 million people who are eligible to vote in the 2016 election and who chose not to. So the Clinton versus Trump came down to 27% versus 26%, you guys. And so if you think your one single vote doesn't count or it doesn't mean anything, truly it does, because even half of the people who didn't vote last time could make a huge difference in the turnout of this election. And so it's just wild to think about that statistic that 50%, almost 50% of Americans are choosing not to vote. And like you said, Rachel, not even every country has this right. If you are a female listening, we've only had the right to vote for like 100 years. We have not had the right to vote for that long. And P.S., that is white females. That doesn't even include how much longer it took for Black women to have the right to vote. And so it's just, your vote matters, your voice matters. Even if you think you're just one person in this population of multi-millions, it matters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I want to just talk too about I feel like there's been so much more effort in this election, and that's probably due to COVID, but there's so many more options to voting, and specifically in voting early. I'm so surprised at these things, like I see through my Instagram stories for people that have already submitted their votes. And personally, I like voting on election day. I just think that there's just like some excitement. I get my I voted sticker, like that hypes me up. But I think it's so cool. Now you have the option to do the mail-in ballots, voting early, things like that. And I feel like that's not really something that we've seen in the previous elections. And, debate conversation around that. There's some pros and cons to it, but I think that is so helpful. So for maybe these people that felt they weren't able to get out and vote that day, and that's why they didn't vote, just knowing that there's so many different outlets that you can turn to now to be able to submit your vote without even having to leave your house, which I think is awesome.
Yes, absolutely. And if you guys don't know, look it up in your state. Most states are currently allowing early in-person voting. So if you do prefer to go in person, but you can't make it on election day, or you don't want to be around that many people, most government buildings in the counties are allowing you to just go in any time of day, cast your vote. Mail-in ballots, most states are allowing you to mail your ballot in up until the day of the election. Going in person, of course, there's so many options that there's really no reason not to.
Yeah, agree. Check out your resources for sure. And even if you are within social media, I mean, you log on to Facebook, you log on to Instagram. Those are the two that I use the most. And what's the first thing that pops up, right? Like that little voters information. And I feel like that's always changing based on just as we progress in time and get closer and closer to the election. But whether you're someone that is into politics or not, it is in your face 24/7. And I apologize if you're listening to this episode right now and you're like, oh, another fucking thing around voting. But sorry, not sorry. I have to speak about it. But yeah, so like, and to speak to that too, so if you're following any sort of celebrities or people that you admire in social media, there's so many more celebrities I feel that I've seen stepping up that are endorsing presidential candidates. And that like also fills me up. Or even just, I'm thinking of like Lizzo, right? Her outfit at the freaking whatever awards that was. Her dress said vote all over it. Like there's so many celebrities out there that are just pushing voting in general, and they're not pushing their political views, but I don't know, there's just something different to me about this election, and I think that just speaks to so much about people wanting change and change for the better.
Totally agree. Also, I forgot to mention this. I believe it's every state, though, your place of employment has to allow you to leave to vote. If you are, for some reason, can't get there, your place of employment has to allow you to go vote. And so there's literally scripts online, too, for what you can say to your boss or whoever is in charge of your shift, letting them know, like, hey, I'm going to go vote on this day. So just FYI, I'm pretty sure that's in every state that they legally have to allow you to go vote.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very cool. So is there anything else, like when you're talking with people that are deciding not to vote or whatever, is there any other reasons that you think that people might not want to vote?
So something for me, and I forgot to bring this up in my experiences, is so something that I experience every time, I don't know if you do, Rachel, is I literally get anxiety every time I go to vote. And I think it's just a confidence thing. And I think people are afraid to feel stupid if they don't know what to do or how to do it. And let me tell you, first of all, the poll workers there, you guys, they are there to help you. They are not there to make you feel intimidated. The poll workers are not there to make you feel stupid. They're there. They can't tell you who to vote for, but they can help answer most of your questions. Also, a really good resource is called Ballotpedia. If you look at Ballotpedia, it will literally tell you type in your address, it'll tell you your voter station, it will tell you exactly who is on your ballot, because there are local officials that are going to be on your ballot this year too, you guys. It's not just the presidential. And our local elections are just as important, because that goes all the way up to Congress. It goes all the way up to DC. So make sure that you look at Ballotpedia to see who is on your ballot, so you don't get there, freeze, panic, and are like, oh my gosh, why did I come do this? I don't know what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. So I think it's just a little anxiety, a little fear of looking stupid. Another great positive for mail-in voting or going early, if that type of thing gives you social anxiety. But just knowing that even if you feel like you don't know what you're doing, your voice still matters, and there's so many resources out there to help you.
Yeah. And there's a few that I want to go over too, but specifically on this form of social media, you also should not be believing everything that you see in social media, everything that you see just in media in general, whether or not it's through Facebook or Instagram, but just even the internet. And I was listening to another podcast about this, and there was a woman that shared another resource called Politifact. And this actually checks the accuracy of tweets and specific speech comments from political candidates, and will basically tell you, is this true or is this false? And I just think that is so helpful, because I feel like there's so many of us that we shape our views around what we're seeing in media, and you can see the one thing, right? One negative thing, and of course both candidates are going to say bad things about each other, right? So being able to use a resource like that to really see, like, okay, this literally struck a chord with me. Is this true or is this false? Is this just something that they're saying to try to push their votes ahead? And so that's definitely something that I'm going to personally be looking into, and I would love to share with some family members of mine and friends of mine.
I love that. I did not know that that resource existed, but I will tell you a quick story. So I took a quiz the other day that was like, can you spot the troll accounts? And so I always thought a troll account was just somebody who like maybe has a fake account and comments hateful things on celebrities' posts or people's posts, and that they're just like internet trolls, internet bullies, right? No, troll accounts can also be falsified accounts spreading false information, especially in regards to politics, in regards to things like that. And so I took this quiz where you analyze somebody's profile and you say whether it's legit or if it's a troll. I failed almost every single one. And that's coming from somebody who, like, I feel like I'm a little bit more politically inclined and educated than some people out there. And I thought every count was still legit. And I felt stupid, but I was like, wow, this is such good information. So Rachel, that resource, everybody listening, definitely go to that, because you don't know what kind of information you're intaking. And it's a bummer that it's that way, but with social media, it makes it so easy to see so many different things and not know what is correct or what is falsified.
Yeah. And for sure, maybe check that before you decide to share a post to your own social media that is going to get out there to everybody that you know and love. Just saying. And there was another thing I wanted to speak on too. So yes, I've shared that same anxiety when going in to vote and feeling like I'm going to feel stupid. And so I'm assuming that the voting process is the same for you in Minnesota as it is in Michigan. But you go in, you show them your ID, they're going to give you your ballot, they're going to give you very specific instructions on what to do. Think of it as like you're filling out a Scantron. So for people that are listening that have never voted before, it's very much like a Scantron sheet that you filled out for like a high school test or whatnot. But you just fill in the bubbles. And one thing that's really helpful for me too is that if there is something that shows up on there maybe you didn't expect, or if it is something more on like the local state or just something that you have no idea about, you don't have to fill in a bubble for every single thing, which I feel like maybe contradicts the whole purpose of this episode about to actually vote. But I think the importance is that you're voting, you're going there to vote, you're serving your purpose, but just know that when you're voting, you don't have to vote on every single thing that is listed on that sheet.
Yes, totally agree. And it's okay too if not all your parties align. You know, I know some people, some friends that I've talked to who typically vote, you know, Republican, and they filled out Joe Biden for their presidential candidate, and they voted Republican for all of their local governments. Like, that's okay too. If you have contradicting views, as long as you know who you're voting for, what they stand for, and that's why looking up who is on your ballot is also super important. Yeah. And just one more thing too about that, Rachel, literally in Minnesota, you don't even have to bring your ID, but look up what you do have to bring. If you have moved recently, they may need address verification. Some states have same day registration. So if you're like, oh, but I didn't register, so I can't vote, that's not always true. In Minnesota, at least I know we have same day registration. You can show up, register, and you can vote that same day. So look into it. If you're like, oh, I just don't think that I can go, or I don't have the proper materials, look up what you need, because chances are you're going to be able to get your vote in. Yeah, for sure. All right, so let's talk third-party voting real quick. Just short and sweet, but one thing that you had said to me back when I was visiting in July that I thought was really helpful and really helped me see third-party voting in a much different light. You had said that if you are unhappy with the current person that is in office, that basically voting third party is a waste of vote, because you know deep down that third party vote is not going to be enough to beat that person that you want out of office or not get in office, right? So that helped me see, like, it really has to be one or the other. And yes, you might not 100% agree with one or the other, but making the best decision, especially if you don't want who is currently in office. That's so important. So, and I know you have some things to add on that, so I'll let you speak more about gorillas and Kanye West. Yes. Okay. So that is such a legit thing. And I think a lot of people faced this in 2016 as well. I will say, I think Gary Johnson is the first, like, somewhat legit third-party candidate we had, which is why there was close to 8 million votes for a third party last year. But that just, in hindsight, came nowhere near close to the 27 million that the other two candidates were bringing in. And so that's exactly it. If you want to see change, you have to vote against whoever is going to be able to bring that person out of office. And that's if that's what you want. If you truly have a third party candidate where you're like, I believe in this person, and if they don't win, I'm okay with whoever does, that's on your agenda. But there's millions of people, you guys, who voted for that gorilla, Harambe, the gorilla in 2016, because they just went into it as a joke, and so you can't think of your vote as a joke. This year, Kanye West made it onto some of the ballots. He didn't make it onto all in all states, but I'm pretty sure he is actually on the Minnesota ballot. And just knowing that if you truly want to make a change and have a new person in office this year, that you're going to have to vote for their opposing party, and you can't just cast your vote, even if it's as a joke, even if it's being funny, because in at least the 2020 election, a vote for third party is essentially the same thing as a vote for who you may not want in office.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Also, one more thing with that too, if you are voting, you're like, I know all the things. Don't get in fights with your friends who swear they're going to vote third party. Focus on your friends who are not voting. At this point, we are, 2-ish weeks out? Focus closely on your friends who aren't voting, who say it doesn't matter, who say they don't need to go in. Stop arguing with your friends who are voting third party. Focus on getting your friends to vote, because more of your friends choose not to vote than you realize.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And sharing, especially the different resources, if they do come back at you with different excuses, or I work, well, you can actually ask your employer for time off work to go vote, or I can't make it that day. Well, you can look into mailing your vote. Like, there's so many different options out there. And so, yeah, and sometimes it just is that encouragement. And there's been several people that I've talked to this year, and having those similar conversations. And sometimes it is, like you said, like, some people just feel stupid. They feel like they don't know enough to be able to vote. And so being able to give them that guidance of like, hey, here's where you can go. Here's the link that you can click through Instagram. Here's where you can pull up candidate profiles, check who's going to be on your ballot. Like, all of these things are so helpful in helping alleviate some of that stress that somebody might be feeling when it comes to voting or not voting. And I think another important piece is having enough confidence in yourself and having enough individuality to know that you don't have to do what you've been told to do your entire life when it comes to voting or who should be in office. And I'm going to compare that to probably something so stupid when when I was going through my dating phases. This is going to sound so stupid, but I swear to God, it correlates. When I was going through my dating phases, I had grown up in a Michigan household. Y'all know I'm from Michigan. I cannot be a Michigan State or an Ohio State fan. Like, it is like, we bleed blue, like that is it. And so when I was going through my dating profiles, if they had Michigan State or Ohio State on their profile picture, I immediately canceled them out. I'm like, I cannot date this person, because that's what it was. That is like my entire life's purpose. Like, you're a Michigan fan, that's it. And I feel like in some households it's the same when it comes to voting. Like, you are a Republican, you are a Democrat, and that's it. And then in discovering, yes, granted, my husband is also a Michigan fan, but there are also people that I'm friends with and that are important people in my life that are not Michigan fans, and that's okay. You can agree to disagree, and it's the same when it comes to politics. There's some people that are going to be so adamant on their opinion, and at the end of the day, you're probably not going to change somebody's opinion like you just mentioned, but hopefully you can help form a better opinion for those that are choosing not to vote, and be able to give more resources and encourage them that, hey, do what feels good to you and what might impact you or the people around you most.
I love that. Do what feels good for you. Also, one last plug: if you do want to vote early, then you can literally say, "Hey, I already voted. This argument or conversation isn't worth it because I already voted." And that was what was so nice. Actually, we just met with some family, and half of us had already voted. So we were like, we voted who we voted for. Like, let's not make this a heated topic of conversation while we're trying to spend quality time together. Mm-hmm. So get out and vote, y'all. Do what feels good for you. I love that, Rachel. That's
yes.
Perfect way to.
Yeah, and voting is sexy. Like,
voting is sexy. It is empowering. Yes. Women fought men for the right to vote, y'all. Okay, they straight up, like, they didn't pitchfork that shit. Maybe they did. I don't know. But like protests, like it was a damn movement, you guys, for us to get to be here and to have opinions outside of our husbands' opinions and to be able to do our own thing and have our own voice. And that is powerful, ladies. That is powerful.
So good. Yeah. On that note, we're gonna end on that. I feel like this was so good. There's tons of resources, and we'll link all of those resources in the show notes. If you want to reach out to either Megan or I know we're both open to having those conversations with you. If you feel like you're unsure on who to vote for, if you feel like this episode inspired you and you are now going to vote and you weren't going to vote previously, please send us a message. Like that is how we know like we are changing lives and we are touching people through these podcast episodes. And we would love to see your I would love to see your I voted selfie on election day on November 3rd. I know I'll be doing some stuff in my Insta story that day for sure, to promote voting in our city. So, or all over, promote voting in general. So thanks again, Meg. This is so fun. I just love you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Thank you so much for listening today and helping me change the world by spreading sex positive awareness. If you love the show, please subscribe so you never miss an episode and leave a review for others to see. If you want to see me on the daily, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram under Rachel Main, or check out my Linktree website in the show's bio for direct links to all my pages. You can also shop my Pure Romance store or become a Pure Romance business owner yourself by visiting pureromance.com/RachelUC. Thank you again so much. Until next week, go out there and own your sexual self.